The marble foyer glowed under the chandelier as David Monroe stepped inside, briefcase still in hand. He wasn't supposed to be home yet. The meeting downtown had been canceled, and for once the city traffic gave him mercy. It was just past 6. The house should have been quiet, but it wasn't. From the end of the hallway came a muffled cry, small, frightened, breaking through the hum of the central air. He froze. The sound came again, a thud, then a woman's voice, sharp, furious. He followed it to the kitchen. Through the glass door, he saw his wife Catherine, elegant even in anger, standing over a child. The girl couldn't have been more than 10. Small, dark-skinned, trembling. David blinked in disbelief. It was Amara, the daughter of their maid Evelyn, who sometimes brought her after school. Catherine's voice cut through the air. "You filthy little liar! Did you touch my necklace?" Amara shook her head, sobbing. "No, ma'am, I didn't." The slap came hard, followed by a kick that sent the child stumbling against the counter. David's briefcase hit the floor. "Catherine!" His voice tore through the house. She spun around, startled. "David, it's not what it looks like." He stormed in, grabbing her wrist before she could strike again. "You hit a child." His voice dropped to a growl. "In our house?" "She stole from me," Catherine snapped, yanking free. "Ask her. Ask the maid's little brat what she did." Amara was crying too hard to speak. David knelt beside her, checking for bruises. "Go upstairs, sweetie. It's okay. You're safe now." The girl hesitated, then ran, leaving a trail of tears on the polished floor. Catherine's breathing was ragged. "You don't understand, David. That girl, He cut her off. "They what?" Her lips curled. "They don't belong here. Evelyn's lucky to have a job at all. Now her daughter's stealing from us." He stared at her as if seeing a stranger. "You think your money lets you decide who belongs?" Her eyes flashed with something cold. "It's not about money. It's about trust. And people like her—" "People like her?" he repeated, voice low. Catherine looked away, but the silence between them roared. For years, David had ignored her quiet cruelties, the offhand remarks, the looks she gave their staff. But this was something darker. He exhaled, slow, trembling. "You need to leave this room, now." Her face went pale. "You're taking her side? Over me?" "I'm taking the side of right and wrong." For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the fridge filled the air. Then Catherine's voice dropped, icy. "You don't know what you're doing, David." He looked at her, the woman he'd built his empire with, and felt something fracture. "Maybe not, but I know what I just saw." She turned sharply and walked out, heels striking the marble like gunshots. David leaned against the counter, running a hand through his hair. His reflection in the steel oven door looked older, heavier. He'd spent his life building things that gleamed. Towers, contracts, a perfect home. But now the shine felt like glass over rot. Upstairs, a soft door creaked open. "Mr. Monroe?" Evelyn's voice trembled. "Is Amara okay?" He swallowed. "Not yet, but she will be." Outside, the city lights blinked against the night sky, unaware that inside the Monroe mansion, the first crack in their perfect world had just formed. By morning, the story would spread beyond the walls of that house, and the man who once believed silence kept him safe would learn what it truly cost to see. The next morning, sunlight slid across the white marble counters, trying and failing to erase what had happened the night before. David Monroe stood at the kitchen sink, hands braced against the cold stone. The echo of Amara's cries still clung to the walls. Upstairs, silence. Catherine had locked herself in the guest room. Evelyn hadn't returned for work. Only the housekeeper moved quietly, pretending not to notice the tension pressing through every doorway. David poured coffee and stared at the steam rising from the cup. His reflection in the black surface looked foreign. A man who built skyscrapers and charity boards, now powerless in his own home. He had spent years believing that wealth insulated him from ugliness, but now the ugliness had a face, and it lived under his roof. The doorbell rang. He opened it to find Evelyn standing there, her eyes red, holding Amara's small hand. "Sir," she said softly, "we came to get her backpack. We won't stay long." Her voice trembled on the edge of formality. "Evelyn," David said quietly, "please come in." She hesitated, but followed. Amara's eyes darted toward the staircase. The same one she had fled up crying the night before. David crouched down. "You're safe here, okay? Nobody's going to hurt you again." Amara nodded, barely. Evelyn clutched her daughter's shoulder, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. Monroe, my child didn't touch anything. I swear on my life." "I know," David said, and the words came heavy like confession. "It was my wife who crossed the line?" Evelyn blinked, stunned by the honesty. "Then why haven't you called the police?" He looked at her, tired. Because I don't know what that would solve. It's complicated. No, sir, Evelyn said, her tone suddenly steel under grief. It's simple. If it was my daughter who hit your wife, she'd be in jail. The truth in her words landed like a blow. David swallowed, ashamed. You're right. Catherine appeared on the staircase then, flawless in a cream robe, pretending calm. What is she doing here? Evelyn's body stiffened, but David stepped forward. She's here because I asked her to be. After she let that little thief, Catherine began, but David's voice cut through. Stop. The word hit like a command. The air went still. We're done pretending this didn't happen. Catherine's face hardened. You think this will make you look noble? Standing against your own wife for some... Enough. His voice cracked through the hall. Do you even hear yourself? Catherine stared, unflinching, a faint smile twisting her lips. You don't understand, David. This is who I've always been. You just didn't want to see it. The words chilled him more than the slap he had witnessed. Evelyn took Amara's hand, ready to leave. David turned to her. Please, give me one day. Let me fix this. Fix? She repeated bitterly. You can't fix what people think they're allowed to do. She walked out without waiting for a reply, the door closing softly behind her. The house fell silent again. David stood there, staring at the spot where she'd stood, his chest tight. Catherine crossed her arms. You'll regret humiliating me. He looked up at her, voice low. Maybe, but not as much as I'd regret staying quiet. Upstairs, the faint sound of breaking glass echoed. Perhaps a picture frame knocked over, perhaps something deeper. He didn't move to check. Outside, a car engine started. The maid's car pulled away from the mansion, leaving the millionaire alone with the echo of his choices. Minnie Hook. That evening, when a video from inside the house began circulating online, the story left their control, and the world decided who was guilty. By the time David returned from his office that evening, the house had turned into a cage of whispers. 2 reporters were standing outside the gate, cameras slung over their shoulders, pretending not to wait for him. He drove past them without a word, but the sight made his chest tighten. He already knew why they were there. The video. Somehow, someone had filmed last night's argument. Not the slap, but enough to tell a story. A sobbing child, a shouting woman, a man stepping between them. The clip had surfaced online just hours after he left for work. The headline was brutal. Millionaire's wife accused of assaulting Maid's black daughter. It was everywhere. David shut the front door and walked straight to the living room. Catherine was standing near the TV, glass of wine in hand, her face pale but defiant. So, she said flatly, you've seen it. Everyone has, David replied. It's on every major network. Then you know how this works, she snapped. They'll twist it, make it look worse. You have to call your PR team. My PR team? He cut her off. This isn't a brand crisis, Catherine. It's a crime. She turned sharply. Don't you dare lecture me. You think I'm the only one who's ever lost her temper? They'll forget in a week if we play it right. He looked at her in disbelief. A 10-year-old girl was kicked to the floor, and you're worried about optics? She slammed her glass down, wine splashing across the marble. You don't know what she did. That necklace was missing. I was provoked. You found it this morning in your drawer, he said quietly. The silence that followed was suffocating. Catherine's mouth opened, then closed again. You went through my things. I was looking for the truth, he said, and now I wish I hadn't. She backed away, her voice trembling. You think you're some kind of hero now? You'll lose everything, our friends, your investors, the board? Then I lose them, he said. I won't buy silence anymore. She stared at him, eyes narrowing. And what about her? Evelyn? Yes, the maid. You're defending her like she's family. Her tone sharpened. People will talk. Let them, he said. At least they'll be talking about something true. For a long moment, she just stood there, studying him as if she no longer recognized the man in front of her. Then she whispered, You'll regret choosing them over your own blood. You already made that choice for me, he said. Catherine turned away, clutching the staircase rail as if holding on to the only thing still steady in her world. You'll hear from my lawyer, she said, her voice cold and brittle. David watched her climb the stairs, each step echoing like a countdown. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a notification. He opened it, a message from an unknown number. You think this is about one video? Look deeper. He frowned, scrolling down. Attached was a link to a private drive labeled Monroe Holdings, Internal Reports. He hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. Outside, another car stopped by the gate. The same reporters, now joined by two more. Their cameras flashed through the iron bars. Inside, the phone vibrated again. They know more than you think. For the first time since last night, David felt something colder than anger, fear. Mini-hook. In less than 24 hours, the scandal had turned from domestic violence to corporate corruption, and the man who once thought he was the savior might soon find himself on trial. The next morning, headlines had multiplied like fire. Every screen seemed to show his face, his house, his marriage dissected in slow motion. Violence in the Monroe mansion. Beneath the luxury, secrets of the city's real estate king. But what froze David wasn't the gossip. It was the new thread attached to his name. Illegal labor and racial discrimination in Monroe Holdings. He stared at the tablet in disbelief. Dozens of former workers claimed his construction company had underpaid immigrants and fired anyone who didn't fit the image. It wasn't true, at least not to his knowledge. But as he scrolled, he saw signatures from executives he'd trusted for years. Some of the documents looked real, some forged, all dangerous. His phone rang. David. The voice belonged to Alan Grant, his legal counsel, urgent and low. We have a problem. Reporters got hold of the company's HR records. Someone leaked internal memos, orders to minimize minority presence in front-facing roles. They're saying it came from your office. That's impossible, David snapped. I never signed anything like that. Maybe not directly, Alan said, but your name's on the chain. David leaned against the counter, cold creeping up his spine. How? That's what I'm trying to find out, Alan said. But the press smells blood. If you don't make a statement soon, they'll decide your guilt for you. David hung up without answering. Upstairs, the sound of drawers slamming echoed. Catherine packing. The image of her face last night, proud, venomous, flashed in his mind. Could she have done it? The leak, the timing, the emails? It felt too precise to be coincidence. A knock at the door cut through his thoughts. He opened it to find Evelyn, her expression cautious. Mr. Monroe, she said quietly, I didn't mean to come here. The police called me this morning. The police? They want to question me about the incident, about the video. He nodded slowly. They'll ask fair questions. Tell them the truth. She hesitated. They said I might lose my job for spreading false accusations. His eyes darkened. Who said that? Someone from your company called. Then they don't speak for me, he said, voice hard. You have my protection. She looked at him, unsure whether to trust that promise. Sir, with all due respect, people like me don't get protection. We get blamed. He wanted to deny it, but her words cut too close to what he'd spent years ignoring. Not this time, he said. Not while I can stop it. She studied his face, then nodded once. You should check your company's emails, Mr. Monroe. I think whoever's behind this isn't done. After she left, he opened his laptop, heart pounding. The internal drive he'd been sent last night was still there. He clicked. Folder after folder of correspondence unfolded. Executive memos, subcontractor agreements, expense reports, all under Monroe Holdings. And then he saw it. A series of directives labeled Project Renewal. The language was clear, clinical, horrifying. Relocate tenants, prioritize redevelopment in minority neighborhoods, keep eviction costs low. The author line read, Approved by D. Monroe. His own signature had been copied and embedded. His pulse thudded in his ears. Someone had planted this, used his name as the scapegoat. He scrolled further and saw a familiar attachment. Photo evidence, source, internal staff. The thumbnail froze his breath. It was a still frame from his own kitchen. Catherine kicking Amara. Whoever sent this knew everything. The phone rang again. Alan's voice was tense. David, listen to me. Someone's building a full-blown case. This isn't just scandal. It's sabotage. By who? That's what you need to find out fast, Alan said. Because if you don't, the next headline won't say allegations. It'll say charges filed. David looked out the window, toward the street where reporters still camped. For years, he'd paid for silence. Now someone was weaponizing it against him. Mini-hook. The next call wouldn't come from a lawyer or the press. It would come from the police, and by then, the line between victim and culprit would blur beyond repair. By afternoon, the sound of knocking echoed through the Monroe mansion. 3 sharp, deliberate strikes that didn't belong to a guest. David opened the door to find two detectives on the porch, coats still damp from rain. The taller one flashed a badge. "Detective Harris, City Police, this is Detective Ruiz. We'd like to ask you a few questions regarding the incident involving your wife and your employee's daughter." David stepped aside silently. They entered with the quiet authority of men used to watching rooms fall still. The scent of cologne and anxiety lingered in the air. The detective sat across from him in the living room, notebooks ready. "Mr. Monroe," Harris began, "we're not here to make assumptions, but given the visibility of this case, we need your statement." David nodded. "I already spoke with our lawyer. I'll cooperate fully." Ruiz glanced around the room, eyes landing on a shattered wine glass near the counter. "Rough night?" "You could say that." "Your wife home?" "No," he said quickly. "She's staying elsewhere." Harris leaned forward slightly. "Do you know who filmed the incident?" David shook his head. "No cameras inside. Must have been a phone." Ruiz flipped through his notes. "The footage was uploaded anonymously to a foreign server. It came from a device registered to one of your household staff, but that phone went missing the same night." David frowned. "Evelyn's?" "No, another worker. Your driver, Mr. Simmons. He quit yesterday morning." David's pulse tightened. Simmons had worked for him 6 years, loyal and quiet. The idea that he'd leak something didn't fit, unless someone made it worth his while. Harris closed the notebook. "We'll find him. In the meantime, your wife's attorney claims you're mentally unstable and that you fabricated the video to frame her. Anything to say about that?" David gave a humorless laugh. "Only that she's consistent, always rewriting reality to suit herself." Ruiz scribbled something, then looked up. "For your sake, I hope you're right, because this case just widened." Widened how?" "A warrant came down this morning," Ruiz said evenly. "Someone filed an official complaint tying your company's redevelopment projects to racially motivated displacements. They're investigating possible civil rights violations." David froze. "That's absurd." "Maybe," Harris said. "But the same source provided internal emails. They came from your account." The words hit like a punch. "Those files are forged." "Then you'll need to prove it," Ruiz said. "Until then, we suggest you don't leave town." They stood to go, professional but not unkind. "We'll be in touch, Mr. Monroe." The door shut behind them with a finality that made the walls feel closer. He poured himself a glass of water but couldn't drink it. Every reflection, the glass, the mirror, the chrome fixtures, showed him a man who didn't look innocent, even to himself. The phone buzzed again, a new message from the same unknown number. "The cops came, didn't they? You still think this is about the maid?" He typed back instinctively, "Who are you?" The reply came fast. "Someone who knows what your wife paid for." His chest went cold. He typed again, "What did she pay for?" Another message. "To make sure you take the fall." He dropped the phone onto the counter. Rain hit the windows harder, blurring the city outside. He stared into the storm, realizing the truth was no longer a matter of morality. It was survival. Upstairs, his wife's closet door hung open, empty of clothes, but on the vanity lay something she'd left behind. Her tablet, still logged into her email. He picked it up, scrolling through the messages until one line stopped him cold. "Transfer confirmed. Offshore account. Media contract executed." His pulse quickened. She hadn't just leaked the video. She'd bought the story, sold the image of victimhood, and left him holding the wreckage, mini-hook. When the detectives returned, they wouldn't be asking what his wife had done. They'd be asking what he would do about it. And for the first time, David wasn't sure the law could save him. The rain had turned relentless by evening, hammering the windows in rhythm with David's pulse. The tablet Catherine left behind sat open on the counter, its screen dimming and waking as though it too couldn't rest. He scrolled through her sent folder again, scanning the thread that confirmed his worst fears. She'd coordinated everything: the video, the leak, even the documents implicating him in racial discrimination. Her messages were to a freelance journalist known for sensational exposés. "Make sure the narrative sticks. The abusive husband, the corrupt empire. I'll handle the rest." Beneath it, a receipt, a $120,000 wire transfer from one of their shell accounts to a name he didn't recognize. His throat tightened. He had spent years letting her handle the family's charity work, the social appearances, the facade of compassion. Now he realized she'd weaponized all of it. The sound of a car door outside broke his trance. He crossed to the window, a black sedan idled by the curb. No press this time, no police. Just one figure sitting still in the driver's seat. A silhouette, watching. The phone buzzed again, the same number. You found the emails. He didn't type a reply. Another message arrived. Good. Now decide if you're going to use them, or if I will. Who are you? He muttered under his breath. The reply came instantly. Someone who wants the truth out, but not for free. He tightened his jaw. What do you want? Everything your wife stole, and her silence. Before he could respond, headlights flared. The car pulled away into the rain, vanishing down the hill. He sank onto the couch, trying to piece the puzzle together. Catherine had set him up, but someone else was orchestrating the leak. Someone who knew exactly how to weaponize both sides of the story. Evelyn's words replayed in his mind. People like me don't get protection. We get blamed. He wondered if the same machine that had crushed her was now turning on him. The front door opened abruptly. Alan Grant entered, drenched, his expression grim. You need to see this. He dropped a folder on the table. Photos, printed emails, an article draft. The headline mock-up read, Racial Hypocrisy, the Philanthropist Who Exploited the Poor. Alan exhaled. They're running it tomorrow, unless we can stop it. Who's they? Your wife's contact, but the piece is being backed by one of your competitors, Brigham Realty. They've been trying to undercut you for years. David flipped through the pages. Some of the emails were genuine, taken from his company servers. Instructions to prioritize redevelopment in certain neighborhoods. Out of context, they looked damning. Can we prove these were altered? Maybe, Alan said, but it won't matter. The public won't wait for proof. David rubbed his temples. If we expose Catherine now, it'll look like retaliation. And if you don't, you're finished, Alan said. You'll lose the company, your investors, and possibly face charges. David leaned back, eyes hollow. She always said perception was power. Alan hesitated, then added, There's one more thing. The journalist, he's meeting Catherine tomorrow at the Fairmont Hotel. If we can intercept that meeting, maybe we can stop this. David looked up. You're suggesting what exactly? Talk to him, Alan said. Show him the truth, maybe even buy time. And if he doesn't care about the truth? Alan's answer was quiet. Then make him care. David stared at the folder again, the faces of his employees, the forged directives, the hollow promises of progress. Everything he'd built, every speech about fairness, equality, opportunity, was about to become a weapon against him. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. All right, he said finally, tomorrow morning. Alan nodded, relieved, but uneasy. You sure? No, David said. But if this is the story she wants to tell, I'll give her the ending myself. The next day's meeting would decide which version of the truth the world would believe, and whether David Monroe would survive it. The Fairmont Hotel smelled of old wood and expensive secrecy. Rain streaked the glass doors as David stepped inside, collar turned up, hat pulled low. His reflection glided across the polished floor, composed on the surface, chaos underneath. He had rehearsed a dozen versions of this meeting on the drive here, each one ending differently. None felt safe. Alan had given him the journalist's name, Julian Cross. 20 years in investigative media, famous for tearing down men who thought money made them untouchable. At 10 o'clock sharp, Julian arrived. Early 40s, sharp suit, messenger bag slung casually. His eyes carried the weary arrogance of someone who knew truth was negotiable. He spotted David immediately, offering a half smile. Mr. Monroe, quite a week you're having. David motioned to the empty chair. You could say that. Julian sat, ordered coffee without asking, then leaned forward. I assume you're not here to threaten me. That never works, especially when the story's already halfway out the door. I'm here because you're being played, David said. My wife's using you. Julian chuckled softly. Everyone uses everyone, Mr. Monroe. The only difference is who pays first. David slid a tablet across the table. Catherine's email thread with the payment receipt. She wired you through an intermediary. The account traces back to one of her PR fronts. Julian's smirk faltered for the first time. You've been busy. Busy surviving, David said evenly. You're publishing a lie. Julian sipped his coffee. Maybe, but it's a beautiful lie. It fits the moment. Wealth, race, hypocrisy. People eat that up. And what happens when the truth comes out? David asked. When you realize you were just another piece of her alibi. Julian shrugged. Then I'll print the sequel. Either way, I win. David studied him carefully. How much did she promise you? Julian didn't answer. The silence did. I can double it, David said quietly. But only if you print the truth. Julian's eyes narrowed. That I took money to manipulate a story? That doesn't sound like the kind of truth people believe. They prefer villains. Then make me one, David said. But not her version. You want a headline? I'll give you one. The man who lost everything to silence. Julian tilted his head, intrigued despite himself. You'd sacrifice your image? It's already gone, David said. But I won't let her destroy the people who trusted me. For a moment, the journalist didn't speak. Then he smiled faintly. You're better at this than I expected. I had a good teacher, David said, eyes hard. My wife taught me how to lie. Julian leaned back, thoughtful. Maybe there's a story here after all. He reached into his bag, pulling out a slim recorder. Let's make a deal. You tell me everything. The company, the fake memos, the setup. You go on record. No edits, no takebacks. I'll decide what to publish. Fair? David hesitated. I don't trust you. Good, Julian said. That means you're still alive. David exhaled. Fine, but if I tell you, you'll understand something. This isn't just about race or power or marriage. It's about what happens when truth itself is owned. Julian pressed record. The red light blinked. David began. He told him about the forged documents, the planted leaks, the offshore transfer. Julian listened, occasionally jotting notes, expression unreadable. When he finished, the journalist turned off the recorder and said softly, You realize this could destroy both of you. Maybe, David said, but at least it's real. Julian nodded slowly. Give me 24 hours. If what you showed me checks out, I'll stop the story. David leaned back, relief tempered by doubt. You mean it? I mean, I'll consider it, Julian said, standing. But truth doesn't sell unless it bleeds. He walked away, leaving his half-finished coffee steaming between them. Outside, thunder rolled again. David sat alone for a moment before noticing something tucked under Julian's empty cup, a folded note. He opened it. She's meeting someone else at 6 p.m., not me. Be ready. His pulse quickened. The handwriting was unfamiliar, rushed, urgent, and for the first time, David realized Julian might not have been the only one watching him today. At 5:30, the sky hung low and bruised, rain clouds folding over the skyline like fists. David sat in his car across from the Fairmont's rear entrance, engine off, eyes fixed on the revolving doors. The note in his pocket had become a heartbeat of its own. She's meeting someone else at 6 p.m. Be ready. He didn't know if it was a warning or bait. The minutes crawled. 5:47. 5:55. Then she appeared. Catherine Monroe stepped out of a silver town car, her hair pinned perfectly, her coat sharp enough to slice through fog. She looked untouched by scandal, composed, radiant, the kind of woman who could smile on camera while the world burned behind her. A second car pulled up moments later. A man in a dark suit emerged, older, heavy-set, carrying a briefcase. David didn't recognize him. He followed her inside from a distance, slipping through the revolving door just before it stopped. The lobby gleamed with gold fixtures and low jazz, indifferent to the storm outside. Catherine and the man entered the bar area, took a corner booth. David stayed back, ducking behind a marble column. He couldn't hear them, but their gestures told the story. Catherine leaning in, hand on the briefcase, the man nodding, sliding a thin folder across the table. A transaction. His phone buzzed. A message from the same unknown number. You're in the right place. He glanced around sharply. Somewhere nearby, someone was watching him. He texted back, Who are you? No reply. Catherine opened the folder, scanned a page, smiled faintly, then she handed over an envelope. The man opened it, counted bills, and slipped a flash drive into her hand. David's breath caught. He could feel his pulse in his ears. She wasn't just bribing reporters, she was buying evidence. He snapped a photo from behind the pillar, the flash briefly reflecting off the mirror behind the bar. Too late, he realized his mistake. Catherine looked up instantly. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither moved. Her expression didn't show surprise, only quiet satisfaction, as if she'd been waiting for him. She said something to the man, who stood abruptly and exited through a side door. David followed instinct, crossing the floor fast. Who was he? He demanded. Don't do this here, David, she said coolly. What's on the drive? Nothing that concerns you? It concerns me when you're destroying my life. You did that yourself, she said. I just handed people the truth. The truth? He hissed. You paid for lies. Perception, she corrected softly. The only currency that matters. He grabbed her wrist. Who are you meeting next? Let go. Tell me. Or what? Her eyes glinted. You'll hit me too? That's what they expect you to do. The words landed like a slap he hadn't thrown. People were watching now. The bartender, the concierge, a woman by the elevator pretending not to stare. He released her hand slowly. You think this will end with you on top, he said quietly. But when everything collapses, I'll still have something you don't. What's that? She asked. The truth, he said. And eventually, it'll eat through your lies. She smiled faintly. Then you'd better hope it eats slow. She turned and walked away, heels clicking against the tile, each step rehearsed, deliberate. As she disappeared into the elevator, his phone buzzed again. You played your part well. Now, check your email. He opened it. A single message sat at the top. No subject line, no sender name, just an attachment labeled Monroe Case Footage, MP4. His stomach dropped. He tapped play. The screen filled with security footage, him confronting Catherine at the bar, but edited. The camera angle made it look like he'd grabbed her violently. The timestamp? 5 minutes ago. The email's body contained just 2 words. Your turn. By dawn, every major network had the clip. The footage from the hotel bar, the confrontation, the wrist grab, Catherine's terrified expression, looped endlessly on screens from breakfast shows to news tickers. The captions were merciless. Billionaire snaps under pressure. Abusive husband confronts wife amid scandal. Every outlet ran with the same narrative. Same edited 30-second window stripped of context. David watched it play on his own living room television, the same house where this nightmare began. Each replay hollowed him a little more. Outside, reporters shouted his name through the gates, cameras flashing like lightning. His phone was a flood of messages. Board members resigning, investors withdrawing, old friends pretending not to know him. He switched it off. Silence filled the room, but not peace. Alan arrived an hour later, unshaven, exhausted. He tossed a newspaper onto the counter. They're calling for a federal investigation. Labor violations, domestic assault, obstruction of justice. They're throwing everything. David didn't look up. They have nothing solid. They don't need solid, Alan said. They've got a video. They've got a villain. He hesitated. And they've got her. Catherine appeared on the screen again, this time giving an interview from her lawyer's office, tears glistening under soft studio light. I never wanted to speak publicly, she said, voice trembling just right, but I feared for my safety. I loved my husband, but I couldn't protect that little girl and stay silent. The clip cut to stills of Evelyn and Amara, their faces blurred. It wasn't just the maid's child, Catherine continued. There were others. Years of intimidation hidden behind wealth and power. David slammed the remote down, shattering it against the counter. She's rewriting the world, he muttered. Alan didn't answer. Minutes passed before he finally spoke. There's a warrant coming, David. Not for her, for you. David turned slowly. On what grounds? Fraud, falsification, maybe assault, depending on how far she pushes it. And what do we do? You disappear for a few days, Alan said. Let things cool down. David shook his head. No, that's what guilty men do. Then prove you're not, Alan said. You said you had evidence. The emails, the recordings. Use them. David looked toward the laptop on the table, the one still holding the flash drive Julian had sent him before vanishing. He hadn't opened it yet. Fear wasn't the reason. It was instinct. Something about the whole thing reeked of setup. He plugged it in anyway. A folder appeared, encrypted. He entered the password Julian had whispered before leaving. Truth. Inside were video files, surveillance from the hotel, multiple angles. One showed Catherine meeting the older man before David arrived. Another showed the same man handing her the envelope in the flash drive. And then, a final clip, Catherine sitting in her car afterward calling someone. Her voice came through clear. He's falling right on cue. Upload it when he touches me. David froze. Every muscle in his body locked. Alan leaned over, eyes wide. That's your proof, he whispered. This clears you. If anyone still listens, David said quietly. Before they could copy it, the laptop screen flickered. Lines of code racing. Then the files vanished one by one, deleted remotely. No, 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 Alan shouted, slamming the keyboard. It's being wiped. Within seconds, the folder was empty. A small pop-up appeared at the center of the screen. Nice try. K. David's breath hitched. She anticipated everything. We still have the flash drive, Alan said. We can recover. He stopped mid-sentence. Smoke curled from the side of the laptop. The drive sparked once, then went dead. A faint burning smell filled the air, self-wiping hardware. For the first time, David felt something beyond fear, the sharp, clean edge of despair. Every piece of truth he'd touched was already rigged to destroy itself. He sat down heavily, staring at the flickering news feed of Catherine's televised interview replaying again and again. Alan's phone buzzed. He answered, listening in silence before looking at David. They're on their way. David stood, straightening his tie, as if preparing for a meeting rather than an arrest. Let them come, he said. Alan's voice broke slightly. You'll go to prison if we don't find something fast. David gave a small, bitter smile. Then maybe prison's the only place left where the truth isn't for sale. Outside, the sirens grew louder. He closed his eyes, the sound of tires grinding against wet pavement merging with the hum of the city. The sirens stopped outside just after 11. The press had already gathered before the police even stepped out. Lenses aimed, microphones thrust forward, the chaos of a city hungry for spectacle. Inside the mansion, David stood by the window, motionless. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened, but his posture remained upright. Defiance and exhaustion blended into something eerily calm. When the doorbell rang, he didn't move right away. Alan looked at him. Say nothing without me there. Let them take you in quietly. There's no quiet left, David murmured. He opened the door before Alan could stop him. The detectives from before, Harris and Ruiz, stood at the threshold. Harris spoke carefully. Mr. Monroe, we have a warrant for your arrest under suspicion of aggravated assault and corporate fraud. David nodded once. I know. He turned to Alan, handed him a sealed envelope. If I don't come back, give this to the press. All of it. Alan hesitated, eyes questioning. What is it? The truth, David said simply. They cuffed him at the door. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted his name. Questions cutting through rain. Do you have anything to say, Mr. Monroe? Did you hit your wife? Are the allegations true? David said nothing. The silence was heavier than denial. Hours later, the interrogation room smelled of coffee and steel. Harris sat across from him, recorder blinking red. You want to talk now? Off the record, David said. Not possible, Ruiz replied. Then let it roll, he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned. Everything you think you know is wrong. My wife staged the footage, fabricated the evidence, and leaked forged documents through a competitor. I can't prove it anymore. She erased everything, but there's one person who can. Harris raised an eyebrow. Who? The girl, David said quietly. Amara Johnson. She saw what happened that night. She saw who was holding the phone. Ruiz frowned. You think the maid's daughter filmed it? No, David said. She wasn't tall enough to have filmed the angle from the kitchen window. Someone else was there. Before Harris could respond, the door opened. A uniformed officer whispered something, then handed Ruiz a file. His eyes widened slightly. Sir, we might have a development. He placed a laptop on the table and hit play. The screen showed a new video uploaded anonymously an hour earlier. Same night, different angle. The Monroe kitchen, wide shot. Catherine hitting the child, David bursting in, pulling her away. The uncut truth. David leaned forward slowly. Where did that come from? Ruiz glanced at the metadata. Uploaded from a public library computer 2 blocks from Evelyn Johnson's apartment. Harris exhaled. Looks like someone wants the record corrected. Ruiz hit pause. You're free to go for now, Mr. Monroe, but I'd stay close. This isn't over. Outside, the storm had cleared. The air felt different. Not clean, but real. Reporters still waited, shouting for statements. He ignored them, walking past the flashing cameras into the street, the city noise rising around him like static. Alan caught up, breathless. It's out, David. The raw footage. Catherine's finished. And Evelyn? Police are protecting her and the girl. Someone leaked it from their end. Maybe the daughter herself. David nodded faintly. Good. For the first time in days, he allowed a small exhale, a sliver of relief cutting through the haze. It's over, Alan said. No, David replied. It's just balanced. Later that night, the networks reversed their headlines. Unedited video reveals wife's assault on child. Monroe cleared of charges. The same anchors who had once called him a monster now called him a victim of manipulation. He didn't watch any of it. He sat in the dark of his office, staring out at the skyline he'd built, city lights reflected in the glass like ghosts of ambition. His phone buzzed one last time, a new message from the anonymous number. "You're welcome. Some truths still cost something." He stared at the screen, waiting for more. Nothing followed. Outside, thunder rumbled again, distant and fading. He leaned back, voice low to no one in particular. Maybe that's what justice sounds like. Not applause, not forgiveness, just thunder fading. Weeks later, a small news outlet would publish a story about a young girl named Amara Johnson, the witness who turned a city's lie into proof. Her mother refused interviews. The lawyer declined comment, but the video remained online, untouched. And for once, no one dared take it down.